All right.
different
Madonna.
direction. Last one, fellas. We have Madonna, Madge, coming back at us with Ray of Light. In the opening montage, you heard Frozen, and now you're going to hear Madonna's Ray of Light comes in at number 106 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 8 in 1998, number 631 of all time. It is Madonna's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. It also made Rolling Stone's list, coming in at number 222, and Madonna is ranked number 182 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums. So this is her 7th studio record, released on February 22nd, 1998. We have previously covered Madonna on 3 separate occasions, I believe. We covered her debut album in season 3, bonus episode 9. Like a Prayer was season 3, episode 32. So we had the full kind of intro bio there. So you can go back for that bio if you'd like there. And I believe you guys covered True Blue in an emergency bonus episode. I couldn't find it on the spreadsheet what episode that was, but am I mistaken? Didn't you do True Blue?
Oh gosh,
Somebody?
that was so long ago. I don't
I
know.
thought you guys did True Blue.
If you couldn't find it on the spreadsheet, then I don't know if we did it.
I thought, or maybe you considered it anyway. I thought that
I'll
you
look.
had, but
Yeah.
yeah, thanks, Josh. Anyway, so for this album, genres include electronica. That's going to be a big theme here, obviously. Some trip hop, techno pop, and new age. And so just kind of picking up where we left off, because the last time we talked about Madonna in a bio was at the end of the Like a Prayer album. So after that, she did star. So this is where Madonna's film career really kind of starts taking off more. She was starred as Breathless Mahoney in the 1990 film Dick Tracy. That's where the song Vogue came out on that the soundtrack to that record. I'm Breathless. It's pretty much Madonna, a Madonna record. While she was filming that movie, she started a relationship with Warren Beatty, who was the lead actor. That fizzled out shortly after the premiere of the film. Then she started it in April of 1990, her Blonde Ambition tour, which Rolling Stone called it, quote, elaborately choreographed, sexually provocative extravaganza, unquote, and that proclaimed it that it was the best tour of 1990. It generated strong negative reaction from religious groups, and this would start to be a big thing for Madonna, or continue to be a big thing for Madonna, getting a lot of blowback. The performance of Like a Virgin on that tour, where 2 male dancers caressed her body before she simulated masturbation. So religious groups, not so much a fan of that. So she got some flack for that. She released her first greatest hits album, the Immaculate Collection, in 1990. That included the new song Justify My Love, and the album was certified diamond.
Something tells me that also didn't make the religious groups very happy.
No, nothing at this time. Well, it's going to get worse, too. That album was certified diamond and sold over 30 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling compilation album by a solo artist in history.
I mean,
so
awesome troll calling your album the Immaculate Collection. You know what I mean? That's pretty fucking top tier. You have to admit, right?
That also made Rolling Stone's list, for albums, and which I always have issue with. You can't. How do you have a greatest hits album be one of the best albums of all time? It's like, I'll make you a mix, and that'll be the greatest album ever. So I don't like that.
One thing I love about Madonna is, like, I'm having issues with religious people. You know what I'm going to call my next album? The Immaculate Collection. Like, that's just, I mean, for those that don't know, the Immaculate Conception is like, yeah. So,
Matt, we did cover True Blue on season 3, bonus 29. That was me and John only.
Yeah. I didn't see it on the spread. But yeah, okay. So there you go. Which was her best-selling album of all time, I believe. That's the number one. Maybe not as high as the Immaculate Collection, but anyway. So she also had a documentary that was released. It was in May of 1991. It was called Truth or Dare. It chronicled the Blonde Ambition tour and became the highest-grossing documentary of all time until it was surpassed in 2002 by what documentary, guys?
Is it Bowling for Columbine?
There you go, Josh. I knew you wouldn't disappoint on that. So, yeah, but very successful documentary filmmaker, Madonna. She started 1992's The League of Their Own, and the single that came from that, This Used to Be My Playground, became her 10th number one single, which was the most by any female artist at that time. She also founded Maverick, which was a series of business ventures. It was a record company, a film production company, basically a multimedia publishing company. So she founds that company, released her 5th album, Erotica, in 1992, as well as her coffee table book, Sex, which sold 1.5 million copies in a matter of days. Have either of you guys seen the Madonna sex book, by the way?
I have not.
I do remember seeing it like way back when. Like,
Yep.
I remember a couple photos from it. Yeah.
Yep, I definitely saw that. My buddy's, I think my buddy's dad got it as a birthday gift for like a quote unquote gag, and then he had it. We were all hanging out at his place for New Year's Eve, and we got to thumb through that. I think I could get a copy of it for like £600 on eBay now. It's definitely out of print. I was just like, is that book still out there? And it is. You can get it for.
Interesting.
It's going to cost you some money though. So
I remember a picture of like Madonna hitchhiking naked, which I thought was funny as a kid.
Pretty much every picture of Madonna in that book is of Madonna naked in some way, shape, or form. This definitely got some strong negative reaction. It overshadowed the Erotica album, and that album became her lowest selling album at that time. I do remember that book. Vanilla Ice was in that book. And apparently they were dating at one point. I didn't realize that they were dating. And it says
God, who is Madonna not dating? God bless her. I'm so impressed by her dating history.
Yeah, there's more coming up on that too. But she apparently proposed to Vanilla Ice. And
that doesn't feel real.
It doesn't feel real, but I saw it somewhere, so I was like, maybe that's worth
Don't you
mentioning.
kind of feel like everybody who's ever dated Madonna has the feeling that like they were almost about to marry her? She just has that vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I feel like she's a more consequential relationship for you than you are for her, if that makes sense.
Probably. Well, Vanilla Ice and Madonna. Vanilla Ice apparently broke up with Madonna after the sex book was released because he was included in it without his permission. So he did not like that. Madonna starred in a couple other films, Body of Evidence and Dangerous Game. She was also dating Tupac. I didn't know she was dating Tupac, as well as Dennis Rodman. So I definitely remembered that one. That was definitely, I remember that being more publicized. And so so obviously there's lots of criticism. In light of all this, she decided to then tone down her image and released I Will Remember. That was from the With Honor soundtrack. And then her 6th album, Bedtime Stories, came out. She also starred, she started the 1996 film Evita, which won her a critical praise and a Golden Globe for Best Actress. And the soundtrack there included mostly songs performed by her. And so that leads us up to this record, Ray of Light. And there were two main inspirations for this album, mostly thematically. Either of you guess what was going on with Madonna that really influenced this record?
I mean, Kabbalah.
You're right.
That's in like all the tracks have like a mystical, spiritual thing, right?
It's Kabbalah, Eastern mysticism.
Yeah.
This was introduced to her by friend and actress Sandra Bernhard. And also, like, in addition to Kabbalah, she was also very much
wasn't
into
hard
yoga.
to figure out.
Yeah, she was very much into yoga, and she was studying Hinduism and Buddhism, so she became very spiritualized, right? So that was certainly one of them. Do you any guesses on the other one?
Techno? I don't know.
Techno, like techno electronic music of the mid to late 90s.
That's definitely the direction she wanted to go in, but I'm talking more thematically.
Like having a kid, like
there
being
you go.
bigger than yourself.
Yes, she became a mother to Lourdes on October 14th, 1996, with fitness trainer Carlos Leon.
The songs are very direct lyrically, so it's not hard to figure out.
Yeah, Little Stars and that about her daughter, I imagine.
Yeah,
based on.
Yep. So kind of those two things really kind of, Madonna's like, I think around this time she's like in her late 30s. She's almost 40. She's pushing 40 around this time, and so she's kind of becoming more introspective for a number of different reasons. And she also wanted, sonically, she wanted to create a sound that could blend dance music with British, with pop and British rock. She started off with this record working with her longtime producer Patrick Leonard, as well as Babyface, but the sessions didn't go as well as she wanted. That wasn't really getting the sound that she wanted. So her manager turned her on to English producer William Orbit, who took a couple of the demos that Madonna was working on, and he remixed them. And Madonna said, she quote, "I loved all the remixes he did for me, and I was interested in fusing a kind of futuristic sound, but also using lots of Indian and Moroccan influences and things like that. And I wanted it to sound old and new at the same time." So she really liked what Orbit was doing, and so he becomes the main producer on this record. These recordings were also the longest of her career. It spanned about course of about 5 months. And one of the reasons for this was that the producer Orbit preferred computers over live musicians. So he had a lot of different equipment, and that equipment would break down apparently from time to time, and it would take time to be repaired. So that slowed some things down. So that was part of the issue there. And so there's lots of different genres that's kind of, attributed to this: electronica, trip hop, techno pop, elements of several different types of house, ambient, drum and bass, rock, new wave, Eastern and classical music. And also this album is known, many people have said that this is Madonna's best vocal album. And one of the reasons might be for that because of the vocal training that she got for Evita. She just had basically developed a greater range than she had before as a result of that. So you can hear some of these notes, particularly I think Ray of Light in particular. She hits some really high notes there that you never really hear Madonna do. So that kind of stands out for me. For the song Frozen, apparently this is another plagiarism case. Belgian court in 2005 ruled that the opening 4-bar theme to the song was plagiarized from a song called Ma vie fut la camp, composed by Salvatore Acquaviva. The ruling forbade the sale of the single and the entire Ray of Light album, as well as other compilations that included the track, in Belgium. So she got banned. Like, everything about that song got banned in the country. There was several years of legal proceedings. There was another lawsuit that was brought on by the writers of a song called Blood Night, claiming that both Madonna and Acquaviva plagiarized them. And finally, in 2014, a court ruled that actually nobody plagiarized anyone, and the ban was finally lifted. So that was a 9-year ban in Belgium for Frozen, for a supposed plagiarism that
what a time
was.
The world was
right?
in.
So this was a massive album for Madonna, as pretty much every album for Madonna was. It topped the charts in 17 countries and sold over 3 million copies in 5 days. It was nominated for 6 Grammys. It won 4 of them, including Best Pop Album, Best Recording Package, Best Dance Recording for the title track, Ray of Light, and Best Short Form Music Video, again for Ray of Light. It also received nominations for Album of the Year and Record of the Year, but it lost to Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill for Album of the Year, and My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion for Record of the Year. And this album has also been credited to bringing kind of electronica more to the global stage, making it less of an underground kind of genre and more of a worldwide, popular genre. And also, I like this. In 2008, Iggy Pop and the Stooges performed Ray of Light along with Burning Up during Madonna's induction in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So you want to see the Stooges cover Madonna? You got it. I'm sure it's out there somewhere for you in YouTube for your viewing pleasure. So there you go. So, all right, Madonna's bio is over for now. I think we're going to cover her again in the next decade. John, what'd you think of Ray of Light?
I've compared Madonna to like David Bowie before, in that she has this incredible run of 20 plus years, right? From like 83 when she broke, probably, I can't remember her really losing her fastball till like the late 2000s, because, she was still releasing pretty big deal albums, Confessions of the Dance Floor, Music, and a couple other ones, right, that were there all the way through that. So that's what, like 83, 93, 03, so like 25 plus years of her just always being able to like kind of see what the zeitgeist is. And her great gift is that she's able to not just reinvent herself like a pop star has to stay interesting, but also be able to take, like a tastemaker, kind of, I would say. She's able to take what either is right about to become big or isn't big but could become big, or has become big but put a spin on it where it doesn't feel like, when she delves into it, gimmicky, right? Like whether it's like gay club music or the fusion of pop with R&B, and here like the electronic music of its time, in Erotica she was bringing a different type of electronic music, and here she's going into that more like British electronic dance music, and this is another, there's what, like 6 different reinventions of Madonna by this point I can think of off the top of my head. She'd gone through from like club kid to like pop star to
Blonde Bombshell to like Spanish Matador. Like there's all the, Sex Provocateur, and now it's sort of like spiritual mother type feeling with like Who Loves House Music, right? Like kind of is the new thing. And all of that almost sounds funny and gimmicky, but somehow it like always works with Madonna. Like it's just amazing to me how she went from like at the beginning of the decade, like super sexed, like Blonde Bombshell, Provocateur, to then she did like the Evita, like I'm gonna try to be a movie star type deal, like I'm an adult, to like now this like I'm a mother and spiritual figure. And you almost laugh hearing it, but like only Madonna or like David Bowie, right, could pull off these unicorn things and somehow make it work. And I think the reason is like twofold. Number one, it's the power of charisma. Like, Madonna's got like Riz to burn. She's also like, I think she went so far. She's always got like a hedonistic like sexuality to her, but I think at the beginning of the decade she almost pushed that envelope too far, and now she's back to like a sexy version of herself, but like a different type of sexy, right? Like a more grounded version of it, but there's always an underpining sort of like, her being a muse. I joked before about, her dating life being interesting, but like, could you, I mean, she's one of those people, it would be like, it would be fascinating to like date Madonna, right? In so many senses. Like, it would be interesting to talk to her. It would be interesting to like see the world as she sees it, like what version of her comes day to day. To some degree, like all the world's a stage with her a little bit, which is I think why she has such an incredible like varied dating history of all of these people. But and the second thing that I think why she, besides just the charisma and sort of that underpinning sexuality, is like the music's always good. And like she is such a good selector of producers and collaborators. Like at every stage of her career, her music always sounds great, and she's always bringing in some of the best people at what they do. She has such an ear and like an awareness of within pop music, like what sounds good and what works. And I think some of it is because she inherently is a fan of pop music and just has a prenatal sense of like what works production wise and pop wise, mixed with like a curated understanding of pop culture and image and marketing that's close to unparalleled as a pop star. And it's different than someone like, Michael Jackson, that I think has it on the music end of things, but you always felt like other people were helping to push his image, and then the image kind of got lost a little while, and there just wasn't a curation of it, right? With someone like him, even like a guy like Prince lost the lead a little bit in terms of, what image works and how to evolve from generation to generation. And this album's great. It's one of my favorite Madonna albums. I liked it right when it first came out. The singles off this album, there's 3 of them I remember. Frozen, Ray of Light, and The Power of Goodbye. They're all very different songs, even though they all like fall in, I guess, what you'd call the electronic realm of things. I remember the videos looked different. They were big, they were bright, they were bold. And it definitely felt like Madonna was moving into another era of her career. She's always been, tied to dance music, but you could definitely see how she was staying with the tide of what like electronic music sounded like at this time. That big beat, right? And even like clubs. She has a little bit of all of the different musical style, electronic musical styles of the era, right? Whether it be a little bit of the lane that like Bjork and Tricky were in, a little bit of the lane of like the big beat stuff, like the Fatboy Slim and the Chemical Brothers and the Prodigy stuff, and a little bit of like the mystical sort of like more ambient version of it. And she blends all these things together. And kind of my takeaway, because this is a thumbs up album for me, is just you kind of have to just take a step back and just appreciate how smart Madonna is as a pop musician and how great all of her albums sound. And this one sounds like amazing. It's super well produced. I definitely see what you mean, Matt, about this being the best singing album of Madonna. She definitely stretches her vocal range more in this album than I can ever remember. She goes out of sort of the two lanes I think of with her, like more whispery ballad Madonna, and then there's the other, like higher pitched but slightly husky at the same time, like dance voice. Like Madonna doesn't have like a high pitched voice or like a deep gravelly voice. She kind of is this interesting register of her own that you hear in all of her dance songs. Like I think of like songs like Dress You Up and Borderline, like from her early career, is like a good example of like that vocal range she has, but she stayed largely there through the 80s. But it's cool to see in the 90s she's evolving musically. Madonna could always sing, but the singing, like the standout voice, was not what made Madonna Madonna, right? It was like the whole package and the tracks themselves. So that's a long way of me. I'm curious to see what you guys think of it. I have a feeling you guys are both going to like it, but I'll be interested to see why. But I think this is one of Madonna's better albums. It might be, in terms of as a full album, of the Madonna albums that we've covered. And we've covered, let's see, Madonna, self-titled, True Blue, Like a Prayer.
This is the fourth.
And the fourth, right? Yeah, this one. We didn't cover Like a Virgin, interestingly enough, but this is the fourth. I think this might be my favorite from cover to cover of the albums we've covered from Madonna. So, strong thumbs up.
Yeah, you stole all my thunder with all my good thoughts, but I agree with you. This is a really strong album. I really enjoyed it. It's my album of the week. Like you said, this album is, speaking of immaculate, it's like immaculately produced. Who is the person? William Orbit, Matt, that you mentioned. Like, he is like bringing the heat on the electronic, backing tracks on this. Everything sounded really amazing. Like she was able to, place herself so seamlessly on top of this electronic like soundtrack, as the musical foundation, and her voice just melds really well with it. It's definitely her foray into electronica. I think this is probably the best that we've heard so far, melding of like electronica and like pop, and it's such like an accessible album in that regard. Like this could, obviously like electronica has been popular and more popular in the UK, but I don't think it's like crossed over to the extent and the reach that Madonna has. Like, so I think like her embracing it and utilizing it, like takes electronica, kind of like legitimizes it like even more so as a musical genre that's here to stay. And there's really like no filler on this album. I really enjoyed her singing on this. I agree, it was a strong, she does have a strong voice on this. That was an interesting fact about the Evita. I did watch that movie recently, so now I'm like kind of like more, I did not like the movie, but I appreciate what she got out of it. It's kind of the trip hop like aspect of this album just works really well with her. She kind of has a more, I definitely picked up on the spiritual kind of thematic nature of this album. There's a more like, she's kind of like leaning into that like spiritual Earth Mother type of feel on this album. I feel like she has like a gravitas to her singing and her voice on these tracks, and as a result, like I don't know, it just works really well. There's a chunk of the album from like Nothing Really Matters to The Power of Goodbye. It's like 5 tracks that kind of right in the middle towards the end. They're like really good songs, like one after the other that I was into the whole time. I thought this was just a really enjoyable listen. And I had never listened to the album before. I only knew Ray of Light and like Frozen, I think, as the singles that I knew. And so it was a I don't know why I shouldn't have been surprised. I should have given Madonna the benefit of the doubt. I guess I just didn't have any expectations as to what this was going to be. I remember the Ray of Light video, and so maybe I was just bringing like, oh, it's like Madonna doing her like techno rave thing or whatever. But like, this is a great like melding of her and techno, and it's just a testament, like John said, to her ability to be able to seemingly work or utilize like any sort of genre to do her bidding. And yeah, it's great. So thumbs up for me.
Yeah, this album totally reminds me of college. Some my friends would listen to this in different parts, and I definitely remember the Frozen song was playing a lot on the radio when I went down to Florida during spring break. So I remember hearing that a lot. So there's definitely associations with this record, and certainly in a specific period in my life. And so yeah, the album, like, I'm familiar with this album, but like I don't know if I ever listened to it front to back the way I did this week. It kind of came in bits and pieces for the most part, and I knew I liked it. I knew that the sound overall was something that I really liked. The first time I heard Frozen, I was like, ooh, like that was just a cool sounding song. And the other songs as they kind of came out, I had just a similar reaction. I love the way that this record sounds. I love the production. It's almost like, I feel like some of this production's done. It's almost like it's being filtered through like a tank of water. It's kind of got this muffled, kind of held back kind of sound. That's definitely it's reserved, right? It's something kind of holding it back from being kind of more of a crisp in your face kind of feeling. And I like that. I like the mood that it sets. This is a great evening record. I think this is a great, just kind of, regardless whether you want to dance or whether you want to relax, I think you can do both in this record, if you wanted to. I think, which is kind of an interesting thing to do for like an electronic, which ultimately like a dance electronic album, to also serve as kind of like an album to vibe out to. And I think that this album does a great job of mixing both of those things together. So it's easily, of the albums that we've covered, I mean, it's my favorite one as well. John, I would agree with that. And actually, I can't say that like I'm an aficionado and I know all these other Madonna albums, but this one to me is very consistent. I think that the only time it loses it goes a little long. The last couple of tracks, I think they're nice, but I think they kind of, and they take you down, right? It's kind of like, all right, we just kind of did all this more, techno beat, type dance songs, and now we're going to do a couple of ballads, which I think are fine, but it, is for someone, and I agree with you, John, she does have amazing ballads. I would not put, Little Star or Mergirl up with those of her best ballads, but I get what she's doing at the same time. It's just, it falls off a little bit, but I think the run, and not just, and I agree with you, Josh, I think once it starts from Nothing Really Matters, through The Power of Goodbye are great. The Shanti Ashtangi song, I guess I could do without that too. It doesn't really do as much for me. Again, I get why she's doing it, but it's not one of the things that kind of stands out. But other than that, like, I just think I love the way it opens. Like Drowned World Substitute for Love is a great track. And it kind of just, it sets the mood in a way. It's one of the least danceable songs on this. It's more of a it's more of a song to kind of vibe out to, but it's very pretty, right? And it's just it sets the tone for the record. And one of the things I noticed with Ray of Light, I'm listening to this on headphones, the guitar part in there during the verses is great. I never really I was mostly hearing the beat behind it. And kind of like the drum machine and stuff, but there's a guitar part in there that's just super catchy. It just kind of goes, with the vibe of the song, and I think that's great as well. So, I've always loved Sky Fits Heaven. That melody there for the chorus is just really, really catchy. It's really, but it's also subdued. It's not totally in your face, and it's just a great sounding record. They did an excellent job, knocked it out of the park, getting William Orbit to produce this, because I just think that this is just such a great sounding record. And yeah, I agree with you, John. I never really thought of it like that, but Madonna's like a Bowie, just kind of reinventing herself so many times, sometimes going with the flow of like where music has been going, but also sometimes kind of reinventing things on her own terms, and just, and really kind of embracing so many different facets of pop music and rock and all these other genres that she's delved into. So, yeah, big thumbs up for me. Really consistent record. I'm glad I listened to it front to back. A greater appreciation for it now than I had before, and I can see why it's considered, her, maybe her greatest album. I think a lot of people or magazines and say that about this record, and certainly something like I know Like a Prayer is pretty highly regarded. But I don't know. There's something about this that just I feel like this is more consistent, and I really like the vibe that she's going with here. So big thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed this one.
Matt, where did you say it was on the album rankings for her?
And best ever album since her highest rated.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, we're going to cover a couple more Madonna albums. I think we're going to do Music and Confessions of the Dance Floor. So we'll be able to get, I think, what are largely considered her strongest albums outside of maybe Like a Virgin. So we'll be able to, I think, draw our own opinion pretty soon.
I mean, but if it does this, right, like that's what I read, that this was an album that really kind of brought electronic music to the masses. And I didn't really see anything detailed as to like why, like it was a big selling album, right? Did like sales of electronic music like drastically increase over worldwide after this? I don't know, but like if in fact it did that, I mean it's got that influence to boot as well, right? It's not just a good album, but it's something that kind of like
I think it's also because there's no gimmicks.
Yeah.
Not that Madonna was ever like fully a gimmick artist, because there's a lot more to her than just that, but on this one, right? Like if you were looking for something that was a gimmick, right? Like the sex, the youth, the costumes, is that this one's just sort of like, nope, this is just an album, right? That
well, it's maturity coming through, right? Like it's, because before, like looking at all that stuff that basically came even from, Like a Prayer, like it was very subversive. It was very like, I'm trying to be shock. It was like a shock value to a lot of what she did, in her music and her book and her movies. Like it was just, I mean, she was just a pretty risque movies and videos. It was everything was kind of like getting out there. And then this is all of a sudden, I'm grounding myself, right? And it's not just, and I'm just putting out a really good album, right? Like you said, John, no gimmicks, no like overt like sexuality or just anything like that. It's just kind of like it's spirituality. It's coming to terms with like this period of time in her life, and it comes across like that. It's just it's more about just letting the music be the music rather than Madonna be Madonna, right? Like it's kind of it's a different take on where she's been in her career.